So the latest reports I'm getting from the Election Commission suggest that across Uttar Pradesh, remember, voting trends are given 1 hour after that particular hour of voting. About 12% of UP has voted so far. I want to go across now to India Today's executive editor, my travel companion through Uttar Pradesh, Javed Ansari. Flanking him this morning is one of UP's foremost political analysts, Sharat Pradhan. What's the hawa you are picking up, Javed? It's been about 4 hours since voting started. This is the SP bastion. The big concern about sabotage. How much do you think Akhilesh's chances are being damaged by those who are opposing him from within?
Yes, Rahul, you're spot on. This is extremely critical for the Samajwadi Party and for Akhilesh Yadav. Of the 69 seats that where voting is taking place, the Samajwadi Party had won a whopping 55 seats. Conventional wisdom would indicate that it would be very difficult for them to replicate this. Whether or not this can happen, we will only know on the 11th. But yes, this is extremely critical. And there are several factors that need to be borne in mind. This is the reporter's shorthand of where voting is taking place. In reporter's shorthand is known as the Yadav stronghold. But here is where the Samajwadi Party needs to do extremely well. And here is where the Samajwadi Party can fall victim to a lot of infighting. Shivpal Yadav contesting from Jaswant Nagar. There are reports of some stone throwing at one of the poll booths. Shivpal Yadav has not been able to move out. And let me put that question to veteran journalist and somebody who knows UP like the back of his hand, Sharat Pradhan. Sharat, how critical is this for the Samajwadi Party, the third round of polls, and how much of a chance of infighting marring their chances here?
Well, you know, this third round becomes extremely important, not only for the reason that you already mentioned. It is also because, you know, up till now we have crossed the 50% mark. 403 seats.
Do you see a trend emerging? Because I haven't.
Certainly. And what I meant was that this would set the trend. If the trend has not emerged, well, there have been conflicting reports from the first and second rounds, which meant a lot for this, also for the Samajwadi Party, because in the first two rounds, Samajwadi Party was leading far ahead in 2012. They had about 58 seats and 55 here. You know, 113 seats of the 50% of the assembly.
So in these rounds, going forward, what could work against the Samajwadi Party?
Well, the only thing that could work is a counter-polarization of the Hindus. You know, because it is felt that the Muslim vote, that the alliance was set up between Congress and the Samajwadi Party largely to ensure that the Muslim vote does not split, which is because split of the Muslim vote.
Have you seen evidence of a polarization and a counter-polarization, division of votes?
Well, it happens always. Sometimes it is in a big way, sometimes it is in pockets. And in this election, I wouldn't say that it is pan-UP, but yes, whenever there is polarization on one side, and there is always polarization on the other, which is often ignored. You know, polarization of Hindus is never as much in focus as it is the polarization of Muslims, which is unfortunately the politics of this country. And you know what happens is that like BJP has been trying to build up its entire campaign on Hindu polarization.
Look, if polarization is a reality, then going forward, it doesn't bode well for the ruling dispensation, because polarization on a particular lines cannot work in favor of the Samajwadi Party.
No, but the thing is that Samajwadi Party, given the present dispensation, you know, Akhilesh besides polarization of whatever in the name of the alliance, you know, it is limited to the minority vote as far as polarization is concerned. But let me tell you, Hindu polarization doesn't happen the way BJP would want it to happen, no matter how much it tries. They've tried it in the past by doing things like love jihad, ghar wapsi. Ayodhya has lost its political potential. So, you know, it doesn't happen because I still feel there is a large section of Hindus who do not get impressed by their Hindutva appeals, which is why BJP...
You know, there is a question that I meant to ask people, and I want you to answer that. There's talk of entrenched voters voting for whoever they've traditionally voted. But do you see a section like the youth drifting away from identity and caste and their caste and religious identities, and voting for a particular leader, voting for development, voting for youth, voting for issues? Or do you believe that today's youth, and I'm told there are about 25 crore voters in the state between 18 and 25, or do you believe that they're also voting on the same pattern, on the same beliefs as their parents did?
Not anymore, because that change has been happening over the past few elections. You know, as education has grown, as awareness has grown, and I would credit the media for that, for creating more awareness. Gradually people have started drifting in a very slow way, but they are drifting away from caste, creed and religion, and it is thanks to the youth. And they've done it, they've shown it in the past. You know, in 2012, the youth surge.
You believe that their vote patterns are cutting across?
They are cutting across caste lines and religious lines, and a chunk. Still, there is, I wouldn't say it has happened across board, but a good section of the youth voter does not get guided by caste and creed or religion. Often you will find, particularly in the urban youth, gets dissuaded by these kind of appeals, and that is the reason that the religious appeal by the BJP has not worked with a lot of the Hindu youth.
Sharad, I hope people like you and me who have more years behind and less ahead will live to see a day when you know, real issues matter more than just identity, caste and religious identities.
I'm very optimistic.
So Rahul, Sharad Pradhan here is very optimistic.
It's interesting, everybody says this, that the vote should be beyond caste, that the vote should be above identity. I asked one of the top BJP strategists, how many people vote on the issue of development and how many vote on the basis of caste? He said 95% in his estimate of Uttar Pradesh would ultimately decide whom to vote on the basis of caste. Only 5% are those who would vote irrespective of caste. That's the harsh reality of politics. It's not a reality we endorse in the least, but it's a reality you simply cannot get away from. But Javed touched upon an interesting thought, and a thought that to my mind is key in determining whether or not the BJP can win Uttar Pradesh. The notion of rallying the majority, getting the majority to vote on the idea of the Hindu identity as opposed to voting just along caste lines. And this is not happening in a subtle fashion. If you see rallies of BJP leaders, whether it is a Sadhvi Niranjan Jyoti, whether it is a Yogi Adityanath who've been star campaigners for the BJP, even if it is Amit Shah, in their rallies, the issue of cow slaughter, the issue of illegal abattoirs, shutting down these buchar khanas, triple talaq, all of them are spoken of very, very openly. It's not happening in a subtle, subterranean fashion. It's in your face. Is it working? I want to put that question both to Prashant Jha and to Shivam Vij, starting with Shivam, because this is not happening in a very subtle, nukkad, street corner kind of way. It's happening in your rallies. You can hear chants of Jai Shri Ram, Bharat Mata Ki Jai. So there's a lot of that. The idea of a Hindu consolidation lies at the heart of BJP's attempt to win Uttar Pradesh.
Right. Rahul, in particular, there are regions, closer to the Nepal border, the Rampur region, the Gorakhpur region, where there's high Muslim population, 30 to 40% on average. In those regions, in particular, the BJP campaign appears very Hindutva, which it doesn't so much in and around Lucknow, for instance. Now, what happens in those regions is, even voters there will tell you, यहाँ तो HM होता है, Hindu-Muslim polarization. But ironically, Hindu-Muslim polarization often also helps the Samajwadi Party or the BSP or the non-BJP party, because if Muslim votes get divided, then the SP or BSP would not win those seats. Which is why in 2012, around the Rampur region, the SP had a sweep. It's the consolidation of Muslim votes as much as the consolidation of Hindu votes that is at stake.
Stay with me, Shivam. This is a theme I want to build on, but Akhilesh Yadav is live with my colleague Kumar Vikrant Singh. I want to go across first and listen to what Akhilesh Yadav has to say. The first interview given by Akhilesh Yadav on the day he went out to cast his own vote. Let's go across now.
आप कहते रहे कि आप सबसे आगे हैं, दावे आपके हैं, तीसरे चरण को लेकर आप क्या कहेंगे?
ये दावा नहीं है, सच्चाई है कि जनता ने मन बना लिया है कि उत्तर प्रदेश के विकास उत्तर प्रदेश की खुशहाली और जिस रास्ते पे उत्तर प्रदेश को समाजवादी पार्टी लेके गई है वही निरंतर विकास चलता रहे तो मैं समझता हूँ बड़े पैमाने पे लोगों के जीवन में बदलाव आएगा।
प्रधानमंत्री मोदी और अमित शाह कहते हैं कि काम नहीं कारनामे बोल रहे हैं।
हाँ, मैं कहता हूँ कि आज तो बुंदेलखंड गए होंगे प्रधानमंत्री जी या कहीं ना कहीं राष्ट्रीय अध्यक्ष भी होंगे। कम से कम उस जिले में, उस क्षेत्र में भारतीय जनता पार्टी ने क्या काम किया वो तो बताएं। हम तो आज बुंदेलखंड जा रहे हैं, मेडिकल कॉलेज शुरू किए हैं, वहाँ पर सड़कें 4 लेन बनाई हैं, बिजली का इंतजाम दिया है, समाजवादी पेंशन दिया है, लैपटॉप बिना भेदभाव के दिया है, खाने का सामान समाजवादी पैकेट के माध्यम से पहुंचाया है, आपकी बहुत सी सुविधाएं दी हैं। हम तो कहते हैं कि आप बताओ कि आपने क्या काम किया। ना काम करना ही आपका सबसे बड़ा कारनामा है।
कांग्रेस के साथ आपका गठबंधन है, अमेठी को लेकर क्लियर नहीं है। अमित शाह कह रहे हैं कि एक एफआईआर दर्ज जिस व्यक्ति के खिलाफ है उसको आपने टिकट दिया हुआ है और आप कहते हैं कि हम जो है इनके खिलाफ हैं लोग।
मैं तो ये कहूँगा, देखिए सुल्तानपुर में विधायक के खिलाफ जो बात आई थी वो बात भी जानकारी दूसरे पक्ष की भी होनी चाहिए कि सच्चाई क्या है। जो अमेठी की बात है मैं समझता हूँ सुप्रीम कोर्ट और तमाम जो किया सरकार उसी पे कार्रवाई भी करेगी और पूरे सम्मान के साथ सुप्रीम कोर्ट का वो फैसला आगे कार्रवाई बढ़ेगी भी। मैं ये जानना चाहता हूँ, कई चैनलों पे यही महिला कुछ महीनों पहले पूरे दिन आरोप लगाती रही। आज अखबारों में लिखा है कि कुछ माइनिंग का आपस में झगड़ा था, लेकिन अगर कुछ झगड़ा किसी तरह का होगा ये बातें सामने आएंगी। ये चुनाव के सामने अगर हो तो कहीं ना कहीं कोई साजिश है। बदायूं में भी सरकार के खिलाफ साजिश हुई थी, सुल्तानपुर में भी साजिश हुई है। मैं चाहता हूं आपके माध्यम से कम जनता सच्चाई जाने और जो निर्णय होगा वो कार्रवाई निष्पक्ष होकर के सरकार करेगी।
आखिरी सवाल, मुलायम सिंह जी को लगता है आपको मुलायम सिंह जी प्रचार कर रहे हैं सर पूरी तरह से? तो ये थे अखिलेश यादव। सैफई इटावा से कैमरामैन अनिल जायसवाल के साथ कुमार विक्रांत सिंह, आज तक।
That's Kumar Vikrant managing to get a few questions in with the Chief Minister. Very difficult task this on polling day. And remember, as I told you, at 9 p.m. tonight on India Today and at 8 p.m. on Aaj Tak, you can watch an exclusive interview we did with Akhilesh Yadav along the riverfront in Uttar Pradesh, in Lucknow. In fact, I think that's really where Javed is at this time. And Javed, you know, we've been together to the Sabarmati riverfront in Ahmedabad. That is beautiful as well. Modi was the first to do it. But this built around 8 kilometers long at an expense of 1,500 crore rupees is truly one of the most stunning riverfronts ever and is part of what Akhilesh believes is the showcase of his Kaam Bolta Hai slogan.
Well, absolutely indeed. We've had the pleasure of visiting this place, and today I'm sitting here and participating in this program. This has really given, Akhilesh, you have to give credit where it is due. He has provided a facelift for Uttar Pradesh, if not for this, for Lucknow, if not for entire Uttar Pradesh. And this is, Akhilesh himself says, you know, one of the things that he won't highlight it. In a way, this is a jewel in the crown. This is something he and his wife are both extremely proud of. He takes, I've seen him, both, in fact, both of us saw how he goes into, takes a great amount of interest into the minutest details of which fountain is working, which is now, whether the floodlights are on, whether the grass is being manicured. So,
no, but
yes,
Javed, there's a counter. I can counter argue by saying, while, let's say, the Gomti Riverfront project, whether the dial-in on the police complaint project, or the Agra Expressway to Lucknow, which he keeps talking about, are fantastic showcases. You can't take away from that. But the fact is that these are very few. The Lucknow Metro, which he keeps talking about, still doesn't run. There are parts of the Agra Expressway which aren't ready completely. The Gomti riverfront is only half done and is only one. So, you go across, like the road that we were on from Lucknow to Hardoi, terrible road. Uttar Pradesh may have roads much better than the past, but still amongst the worst roads in the country. Much worse than even a state like Bihar, much worse than Rajasthan, much worse than Madhya Pradesh. So yes, he's got some showcases. He's put all his energy on these big showcases. Is this really a case of marketing them? Net, UP's roads still very bad, and all you ask, whenever you ask about roads, he says, oh, agar expressway pe Modi ji travels, even he will vote for the SP.
Rahul,
one second,
Javed is missing one thing.
What is he missing?
That his development, Akhilesh development has not reached to rural Uttar Pradesh, which constitutes 2/3 of the Uttar Pradesh population and the area. So it is only the showcases in the urban area, the consolidation in the urban area, and urban votes are polarized between the BJP and the rest of the party. Second important thing, Javed was asking question to Sharad Pradhan. he was saying that there is a polarization and counter-polarization. Look, in BJP is not talking of the religious nationalism, it is talking of the cultural nationalism. Bharat Mata ki jai or something like that, opposing the love jihad, it is not the part of the religious nationalism. So you have to make a distinction instead of prejudiced mind that everything BJP is talking is a religious. Is not that.
No.
All the parties are trying for the communal polarization.
After spending lots of time with top BJP campaigners on the field, my sense is the BJP is not being coy about this at all. They're talking about this openly in rallies. They feel that the minority community has been appeased. They're saying that SP headquarters have been running from police stations and that cases against Muslims are not being registered. This is something they're very, very open about. It's an open attack, Shivam. It's an open attack. I want to build on the idea of a majority consolidation, which seems to be at the heart of BJP's campaign. It's not something that's being done in a subtle, subterranean way. It's very open, it's very in your face, and they're going all out to try and ensure that Hindus vote as Hindus. That's the thrust of what they're trying to do.
But Rahul, you
One second, Shivam Finch first, then I come to Dr.
Rahul, it's very clear that in the areas of Muslim concentration, the BJP has no other game. The reason why they need Hindu consolidation is because otherwise it becomes about caste. I saw in Bareilly that they were trying to use Hindu consolidation to paper over issues such as the trading community suffering from demonetization. They put up saffron flags everywhere. In this Yogi Adityanath rally I went to, they were shouting, Mandir banna chahiye ki nahi banna chahiye. So Ram Mandir, the BJP might say, is not an issue in this election, but in particular rallies, in particular areas where we need to polarize, they will say Mandir banna chahiye ki nahi banna chahiye. They in fact even asked, they said if you do not vote for the Lotus this time, the Quran will be forced on you. This is something I heard in Bareilly before Yogi Adityanath rally by local leaders in Bareilly. Now, this is something you will not hear at a larger campaign level. You will not hear it in a Modi rally, in a Amit Shah rally. But even Modi and Amit Shah have been talking about triple talaq. They've been talking about how Samajwadi Party's benefits go on the lines of caste and religion. And that's very important because when they say caste, what they mean is that only Yadavs get it. And it is the anti-Yadav feelings among the MBCs that they're trying to use to consolidate MBC vote. And when they say religion, what they mean is only Muslims get it, and they're trying Hindu consolidation with that. The only problem is that this kind of thing is not succeed. It's working to a limited extent from place to place, but not like 2014. Remember 2014, Muzaffarnagar riots were only a year old, right? Even in areas of Hindu-Muslim polarization, I asked people, "Kitna HM hai? HM hai? Kitna HM is it? Pehle se kam hai." So my hunch is that in those areas, the BJP will do well, but not as well as 2014, but better than 2012.
Rahul, there is a thin line between democratic polarization and the majority polarization. I think you can't deride the democratic polarization as a Hindu majority polarization because Hindu community is fragmented in caste. There is no appeal in the name of any particular religion or religious text.
No, but this is a good point that Rakesh Sinha makes. It's not just a very base level religious polarization. Yes, there is a certain sense of Hindu identity, but added to this identity is the promise of development that Modi promises. So therefore, you've got Hindu identity plus development, which means that Modi is trying to build this umbrella coalition of Hindus who vote as Hindus and not as castemen.
Rahul, I must make 2 points in support of BJP and SP. On BJP, I don't know at the ground level what kind of polarization is taking place, what the leaders are saying. But if you go through their manifesto, the manifesto has triple talaq. They have said that they will support the Supreme Court's judgment in strengthening women's rights. You can't take exception to it. Similarly, what they have said, on the Mandir, they have said they will try to pursue constitutional means in building the, which again is unobjectionable. On Akhilesh's point about these, which you criticized, these showcases, I think these showcases are very important for UPIites to go and see what a riverfront should look like. In India, we don't have anywhere to go except for Sabarmati and
I agree with that, but it can't just be about those handful of projects.
When I do a
what
good
about,
thing...
You were with us when we went to Muzaffarnagar?
Yes.
You remember when we went to those riot hit camps, how bad the roads were? It was some 40 kilometers. It took us 3 hours to travel those 40 kilometers.
This is like criticizing me. I have done something good. You are telling me but 2 things you have done bad. I'm not saying that I haven't done
Both are
any bad
equally true.
thing.
Fair point. Both are equally true. Prashant, the fact that SP has worked on improving road conditions and road conditions are much better than in the past is true. The fact that road conditions still remain amongst the worst in the country and probably the worst in the country, both of those statements are true.
Absolutely, Rahul. I think, we need to disentangle what Akhilesh's model has been. I think he has focused on three broad things. One is infrastructure, which is where the expressway and metro, etc. come in. The other is welfare, which is where pensions and ambulance comes in. And the third is aspirations, which is where the laptop and smartphone promise comes in. But not all of this spreads all across the state. When we were traveling in West UP, what we found was that when we asked people, has Vikas happened? And people said, नहीं उन्होंने अपने area में किया है, हमें हमारे area में नहीं किया है. So in West UP, for instance, the promise of development has not really manifested in concrete schemes and the visible achievements that you see, for instance, in Lucknow. So I think both those statements, Rahul, are correct. There is work. And because the base was so low in UP, because expectations from the government were so low, just the fact that Akhilesh was a leader who was seen remotely interested in the task of governance itself has given him a fillip. No. But at the same time, aspirations are high and the record, there is still a long way to go. But Rahul, I also want to go back to that point about polarization. I completely agree with Shivam. There is a very explicit agenda by the BJP, what you have heard in rallies, the targeting of minority communities, and I think building up on resentment. I think the politics of BJP is how do we stir up resentment among Hindu castes to get them to consolidate. Where has it worked? It has worked in pockets like Bareilly. Where has it not worked? It has not worked with the Jats. And I think that is a big departure from 2014.
No, but that's because the Jats were upset with what happened in Haryana. They were upset with the fact that people from their caste were jailed, were attacked by the police, and they were very upset. Shivam very dutifully, like a student in class, has his hand up. Yes. Go ahead, Shivam. The teacher gives you a chance. Go ahead, please.
Rahul, one point I want to make before the show gets over is that we are seeing a lot of Akhilesh being discussed on this show, Akhilesh development model, etc. One point I want to make is that I was traveling here in December, Jan, and now suddenly voters are not talking about Akhilesh as much as they were talking earlier. Not even about Modi. There are only two issues in this election as far as I can see. One is caste and one is candidates. My candidate is bad is something I hear everywhere, especially about SP and BJP and Congress, not so much about BSP. So the Akhilesh wave, we may talk Akhilesh development, but if the development work was turning into a wave, then we could have said that Akhilesh is doing very well. However, there is no Akhilesh wave despite all this development work, and we cannot say that Akhilesh is leading.
So you got two armies marching into battle. The question is which of these two armies will win. It's interesting that you say that there are complaints about the SP and the BJP's ticket distribution, because the SP's complaints you can understand. They hardly had any time. Just few days before the first phase is when they finally sorted out the alliance. They hardly had any time. So you've got Shiv Pal's candidate, you've got Akhilesh's candidate. That's a royal mess on the ground, because they've been trying to get them to withdraw their candidature. In some cases the candidates have agreed, in many cases they haven't agreed. But there's really no reason for the BSP to have so many, for the BJP to have so many complaints, because the BJP knew it was fighting. They knew that they'd have their strategy chalked out, but they've also had lots of complaints, primarily to do with the fact that you've got so many outsiders coming in, them being given tickets, and also leaders who've been picked to contest don't seem to have a lot of popular support in some pockets at least. Very interesting. Each party, each alliance facing its own unique set of problems.